A warm welcome to another episode of Service to Humanity, a program which showcases the strides of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development as it carries out its mandate. Over the last few weeks across the country, the End Skills Program, a new category under the National Social Investment Program, has been carrying out training on phone repairs for interested Nigerian youths and giving them an opportunity to get trained and empowered with a skill to earn a living. Service to Humanity was in JOS, Plateau State, to see and interact with some of the beneficiaries, details of which we will bring you in the course of the program. Still on the National Social Investment Program, we shall continue with our story on the federal government's intervention in Ogun State. This time, we shall bring to you a visit by our crew to the meat aggregator of the state under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. This and more in this episode of the program. I am Habiba Zakzak, urging you to please stay tuned for the full program after the break.
Is key to helping young Nigerians acquire and develop.
The federal government of Nigeria remains committed to including and protecting persons with disabilities to guarantee that no one is left behind.
I see that we are going through challenging times, and I see this woman running all about the country trying to help our people, because this lady is doing a very good job for our country.
Thank you.
Thank you for all what you have been doing for us.
The program starts with the Management Diary, where we have news from the ministry and her agencies. In our lineup, NEMA assesses damage in Taraba bomb blast, and federal government to commence disaster risk awareness campaign. Stay tuned for details. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has carried out a damage assessment at the International Cattle Market, Iware Ardokola local government area in Taraba State. This was on Monday, 25th April 2022. Mr. Ayuba Ladan, the head of NEMA's Taraba Adama Operations Office, who led the team on the inspection visit, said officials were on the scene to assess the extent of the damage. He said the visit was ordered by the agency's Director General, Mr. Mustafa Habib, who had voiced worry over the incident. While expressing his condolences to the Taraba State government and the victims of the heinous act, Ladan promised that the agency's Operations Division will transmit its finding to the headquarters for a prompt action. The NEMA team also paid visits to the community's village head, the Federal Medical Center in Jalingo, and other medical facilities where victims are receiving care. The blast at the International Cattle Market affected 121 houses, killing 9 people, while about 28 were injured. Many more were displaced by the incident. The federal government says it will start a disaster risk information awareness campaign to inform the public on the consequences of illegal oil bunkering. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, made this known when a federal government delegation visited Imo State to commiserate with the government on the explosion which occurred at an illegal refinery site in Abazi Forest, Ohaji, Egbema local government on Saturday, 23rd April 2022. The minister, who was represented by the Director Reliefs and Rehabilitation in the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mr. Al-Hassan Nuhu, said the government will implement risk strategies to create awareness on the consequences of illegal crude oil refining amongst the locals. Farouk then called on traditional rulers, religious heads, and community leaders to advocate against illicit bunkering of oil in the communities. She also called for collaboration between security agencies, NEMA, and other regulatory bodies in the oil and gas sector to nip what she termed as an ugly trend in the bud. Earlier, the State Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Dr. Princess Rabi Ibrahim, thanked the federal government for sending a delegation to visit the explosion site where scores of lives were lost. Other members of the federal government's delegation include the Director of Search and Rescue, Air Commodore Edward Kolawole Adedokun, the Deputy Director, Humanitarian Affairs in the Ministry, Dr. Abubakar Suleiman, officials of NEMA and the Ministry. Sometime last year, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajiya Sadiya Umar Farouk, announced the introduction of a new component of the NPower called the N-Skills. Fast forward to January 2022, the federal government launched the program with a training workshop for master trainers of the N-Skills program. The master trainers were trained in preparation for the nationwide training of 6,475 youths on repair of smartphones. Our crew interacted with the National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program, NSIP, where he explained the idea of the N-Skills program. We were also in JOS, the Plateau State capital, to cover N-Skills training activities, interact with the master trainers and beneficiaries of the training. Let's see what we got.
The federal government has concluded the training of 6,475 youths on repair of smartphones.
This network antenna.
The training, which took place nationwide and saw 175 youths drawn from each state of the federation, was based on a certification system and an accreditation of practical training provided through the informal training system. National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program, NSIP, Engineer Umar Pinder, sheds more light on the idea of the N-Skills program.
The N-Skills now is supposed, you see, the N-knowledge is that you are not a graduate of tertiary institution, but you have SSC or secondary school or primary school and so on and so forth. You have some qualification. Therefore, you can read and write, you can interrogate the computers, but the N-Skills is now at the lowest level for people, young people who have energy, but they have never been to school. So these people, you can take them through leather works, they can make shoes, and you are just pumping skills onto them. That does not necessarily mean that they have to read and write and so on and so forth. Also, repairing telephones, you know, these, you can train young people on, take this, fix it there, and do all that.
At the JOS Center for the training, beneficiaries of the program were trained on phone repair, which is the main program, entrepreneurship, and life skills. Awal Garba, the training manager, and Abdullahi Muhammad, program manager for phone repairs, both at the JOS N-Skills Training Center, tell us more about the training.
The training is all about three core areas. Number one is teaching the participant about the basics life skills that they require for use out there. Then secondly, foundational skills, and this has to do with phone repairs and maintenance. It is supposed to carry them along by the instructors on how to repair and fix smartphones. Then lastly, to give them the basic entrepreneurial skills they need in order to establish their own businesses.
Federal government deemed it necessary that reasonable percentage of the people do not apply for Empower. Then they created an N-Skill. It's expected those that do not apply for Empower will go for N-Skill. At the selection, you can see we gave the fiscally challenged people commission. They send their people. We send to the local government chairman. They send their people. In fact, we send to traditional rulers, undermining political affiliation.
After the trainees have been onboarded, they shall receive a monthly stipend of 10,000 naira for a period of 6 months.
When you are trained, you establish your own way, your own shop of phone repair. Maybe throughout the month you might not get one customer. Government will still pay you 10,000. The second month you might not get even one customer. Government will still pay you 10,000. By the third week, the third month, you might get customer that can come and add 500 naira to that 10,000. But government will still give you that 10,000. So government will give them 10,000 for 6 months when they are onboarded. That's after the program. We give them 13,500 as feeding and training allowances. We pay them 10,000 after giving the starter pack for 6 months.
There would also be a follow-up and monitoring of their progress by their trainers.
There's going to be an assessment and there's going to be a follow-up to what you will do with the kids. And as I told you, there's going to be a monthly payment of 13,000 into the beneficiaries account. And this payment is going to be subject to what you are doing with the materials. So there's going to be an evaluation and assessment after the whole training. We are not just going to give out the kits without follow-ups to see that, yes, we are using these kits very well as expected.
Mohammed tells us what is expected of the trainees now that they have completed the training.
At the end of the program, they are going to be given a starter pack, and the expectation of the organizers of the program, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, is that these starter packs they will receive at the end of the training is for them to be able to establish their own business, their own foreign affairs company or a business that they can be used to earn a living through it.
The managers urged the trainees to use the work kit they would be issued with to empower themselves, as that is the sole purpose for which it was given to them.
This is an opportunity given to them. Let them hold it, let them use it graciously. For those that are coming in, we have other programs. Those that are coming in, we'll use them as an example. When they establish their business, government will monitor them. That was why we must tell us your location, where you are going to open it, even if it's in your room. Someone will come and monitor you.
Some of the trainees spoken to expressed their gratitude to the government for the skill they have acquired and shared their plans for the future. Chakwak Susanna and Adams Yusuf are two of such beneficiaries.
We are taught a lot of things, how to be a good entrepreneur. We are taught on how our attitudes can affect our business.
Well, I must express my profound gratitude to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as well as to the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management for coming up with this profound program to enable young people like me to be empowered and have a skill that will sustain me and my family. So I must say that I'm really grateful and I'm really delighted to be part of this.
For Adams, he has a piece of advice for youths who are yet to take advantage of such golden opportunity.
Engage in something doing. Make sure you use your time well and don't waste any opportunity that comes your way. Take for instance, there were some people who were called to come for this program that were selected, but they refused to come. Some gave flimsy excuses, some said it doesn't matter for them. But so that tells you the mindset many youths have. But for me, I'm saying that anybody that will do well should be able to utilize and maximize every opportunity that comes your way.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones.
They should use this money for what it is meant for, efficiently to take care of their family.
In 36 states and the FCT. Over 6.4 million of Nigerians poorest of the poor in about 1.3 million households receive conditional cash transfers of 5,000 naira monthly under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government. Their joy knows no bound.
And the government is very well because they did well for us.
Help me to do any other thing, my family.
Reducing absolute poverty. Promoting shared prosperity through the Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in service to humanity.
Glad to have you back. There's no doubt that the federal government, through the National Social Investment Program, is actively pursuing the target of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty by the year 2030. If it is not training youths under its various skills empowerment programs, it is boosting local economies by empowering farmers and businessmen and women through the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. This evening, we shall be looking at protein aggregators in Ogun State and how the school feeding program has impacted on their lives. Please stay tuned.
Capital Pioneers Limited, a meat processing company, is one of the aggregators under the homegrown school feeding program in Ogun State. Abiodun Odukoya, chairman of Capital Pioneers Limited, speaks on the school feeding program in Ogun State.
The program has been going very well in Ogun State, and in fact, Ogun State has been a state that's recognized to be one of the best in Nigeria. We even had international recognition when a group from Botswana came around some years back to interact with us, and they said that even despite that they started the program about 50 years ago, the template we used in Ogun State is even better than theirs, and they even invited some of our people to travel to Botswana to go and interact with them and teach them more on the template that we use. So the program is very good, it's laudable and very good because it touches the grassroots. What I mean is that those that send their awards to public schools are the downtrodden or the less privileged society, and most of these children are not able to eat balanced diet at home, and the food that we serve under school feeding is balanced. So even giving the opportunity to eat once a day is good. It improves their health, and also some of them are even attracted to school because of this meal. So which means it has also increased school enrollment. So it's a very laudable program and has been helpful to society.
Odukoya tells us more on the impact of the school feeding program in the state.
In terms of employment generation first, and if you look at the value chain, we buy our cattle from local farmers because that's what they said, homegrown school feeding. So it means all the materials used must be sourced locally. So we buy from local farmers, and we use the local butchers to process the meat at our slab, which is located at the abattoir. But before the meat is even the cattle are slaughtered, they are normally certified fit by vet doctors, and we use certificate. Even our slab and prayer centers have been certified by the Ogun State Ministry of Agri, and we are certified and we have certificate. So if you look at the quantum of people that are engaged in this process, right from the farmers to the butchers to the processors, even when we are moving the processed meat, we use pulling van. So it means there are also drivers that are involved. And if you also look at the number of food vendors, I think in Ogun State alone, there are over 3,000 food vendors. So if we talk in terms of employment generation, it has helped a lot in employment.
As a meat aggregator for the school feeding program, Odukoya shares with us the processes involved in processing the meat for the program.
Our processes starts with the procurement of the cattle, which should be healthy. And after the cattle are slaughtered at the abattoir, they will be processed by the butchers. After, we now move them to the processing center here. But before they are moved there, they will have been right-sized. That means cut into the approved sizes. And once they are brought here, but in the process of bringing them here, we ensure what we call cold chain process. Meaning that when they are being brought, they are brought in cold van, cooling van. And when we bring them here, we put them inside coolers and add ice blocks. And the essence is that we preserve those meat while the processing is on. We make sure they are being cooled when the processing is on to preserve the meat. And so once the meat are brought here, they will be counted and put in the nylon that has been labeled with the name of each vendor, the name of school, and the number of puppies the number of pieces of meat that are in the nylon. After that, they will now be refrigerated. These are chillers, this and the one outside. We also have another one inside. They are fabricated to produce ice block. So it means they are even more efficient than the conventional freezers. So once we put the meat there, we freeze them overnight, and by the following morning they will be frozen, and they will now move them to cold chain partners inside cooling van to make sure that the meat are preserved and cool all through the process of delivery. Then when we deliver at the cooling centers, we call them CCP. The vendors will now go and collect meat from there and sign against the quantity to confirm that the quantities are good in quality and quantity.
He also shares with us the excitement of some of the pupils concerning the school feeding program.
Few of them know us, and when they see us, they are excited. Even during holiday, they'll be asking, are we not going to eat? We now tell them, no, you don't eat. Unfortunately, during the last COVID, the federal government gave them a take-home ration, which was given to their parents, and so even during the holiday now, they still expected that such ration will come. Well, if government can afford it, I don't say anything that's bad news. So that's what I've said, that the pupils are benefiting, they are happy, they are healthy, because like I said, many of them can't afford to, their parents can't afford quality or balanced diet for them at home. So going to school to eat quality and balanced diet makes them happy, makes them excited about education. They are willing to go to school, and that has reduced the number of pupils on the street.
Odukoya tells us about the impact of the school feeding program on the pupils of Ogun State.
It has impacted, it has increased the number of enrollment in our schools, which is good for the nation.
Abayomi Durojayi is a fish farmer and an aggregator under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program in Ogun State. He supplies 167 vendors with fish under the Homegrown School Feeding Program. He speaks on the service he renders and the impact of the program to his business and the community.
My business essentially has seen a considerable increase, growth, if I may put it that way. And that's for me as a person. And generally, the value chain of this exercise being held here is numerous. I mean, it's unquantifiable. The processing, apart from the fact that we get farmers to go into fish production, which we aggregate, we offtake, we engage labor to do this work. And that means you're empowering some people. Apart from that, I, for one, I give back to the community when I'm processing. Like, ordinarily, the fish head, the bones that we don't use, we should sell or use to make money. But I've done it in such a way that everybody around me benefits. I tell them to come pick for a token, and So each time there is production, you see the whole community scrambling to come around here because of the impact of that exercise on the society. That's more than money for me as a person, because you see the joy in their faces. They're not eating the real fish; they're eating just the heads. But you see the joy that they derive from that. I mean, it's something else.
Durojayi commends the government for introducing the school feeding program, especially for the nutritional value it adds to the lives of the pupils.
I will want to appreciate the federal government for thinking it right to give that nutritional value to these children. There are homes around here that can't even afford anything at all. So you can imagine being fed with that little food every day. It's quite a lot, especially with the protein value added to that food. You just saw the fish that we feed them with. You've seen the quality. You've seen the quality of the fish. I think I showed out the quality not too long ago. You can see how fresh they are. You can see the sizes we feed them is for the value that we've been asked to produce. I mean, it's good value for money. And the nutritional value, you can't just overemphasize on that value. The quality of protein that is being delivered to these children, I think is quite good, and the impact is good.
Durojayi can only ask that the program be sustained because of the impact in the lives of the people.
I tell you, anytime we're not producing, the fish farmers suffer. The people we engage suffer. The people we feed, that we give our fish heads to, they feel it. So I'll only beg the government to continue with this and make it run more. For people like us, we thank God for what He has done for us. I mean, you see the joy in people when you're producing. It's not just the economic value. The joy you derive, the homes that are impacted by this little program. I mean, it's great.
And that concludes this week's episode of Service to Humanity. Of a truth, the National Social Investment Program is one of the biggest legacies of this government, particularly for what it is doing to empower people and tackle poverty. Join me again same time next week for more on the strides of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Have a great evening and see you next week.